If you're watching this video today, you're probably interested in buying a used Volkswagen Jetta. This one behind me is a 2015 model, and today I'm going to be reviewing it for you. Now we're going to be going over what the car is like to drive on a daily basis, and also even if it's a good car at all to consider. So stick around, this is going to help you guys today. Now it seems as though performance figures seem to matter for everyone buying a car. So this Volkswagen Jetta comes with a 1.4 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine that produces 150 horsepower. Now it doesn't sound like a lot, but you got to remember this is a very small 4-cylinder, but the part of this car that actually shines isn't so much the raw horsepower, but it's actually the torque and how this car distributes the power when you're driving. Now this car comes with two different transmissions. You can get a 6-speed manual or a 6-speed automatic. This car right here is the 6-speed automatic, and I'm not going to be speaking for any of the GLI models that do have the DSG. This is just a regular automatic 6-speed transmission, and I will be honest with you, it actually does feel quite nice, but there are a couple things that I think they could have tweaked when they were engineering this car, but we'll get into that shortly here. Now, as you probably already know, this car only comes in front-wheel drive, given that it is a Jetta. That said, it does have stability control, traction control, and all the safety standards that you would really need and expect to have of a modern car. Okay, so what's it like inside the Volkswagen Jetta? Because let's face it, you spend all your time inside the car and not outside. And let me tell you, it is actually a very nice place to be. And let's start off with the seats. These aren't ridiculously aggressive, sporty seats, but they're also just perfect enough to hug you in nicely, and they have really good cushion as well on the bottom and on the backs. They also extend quite a bit further on the leg portion there, so if you do have issues with your knees, that's actually going to help quite a bit with making it a little bit more comfortable overall. Now, I will say this, one of the best parts about this car, in my opinion, is the steering wheel. Now, why do I say that? This is essentially the most impact you're going to have with your hands when you're driving a car. You want it to feel good, you want it to feel comfy, and this steering wheel contours your hands so nicely. They really did a good job with the ergonomics of this design here. And you also got a flat bottom steering wheel at the bottom, and it just overall looks like a really nice steering wheel. They did a great job on. Now, a couple other things that I will mention with this interior, and this is where I think Volkswagen did cheap out quite a bit, that is build quality on the inside. The dashboard, for example, is this soft touch material, but that's pretty much about it. The armrest is soft, but this is all plasticky, and you can hear it doesn't really feel or sound that nice. And the plastics they used too, they weren't even good plastics. They look very cheap and flimsy. So I think that they really could have done a better job when putting a little bit more effort into making the interior of this car feel a little bit more premium, in my opinion. Now, there is one part of this car that does feel really good, and that is the space you have in here. Now, I'm not the tallest guy here. I'm about 5'10", but you have plenty of headroom that you could obviously adjust with the incline or the rising of the seat here, but there's tons of leg room. Even if you're taller, you can bring the seat all the way back, and as you can tell, this would accommodate some of the tallest dudes and gals out there if you are one of them. So what's it like in the rear? Quite frankly, it's a pretty decently nice place to be. The seats themselves, they're not bad, they're not great either. They're a little bit on the stiffer side in the rears, which feel a bit different than the ones in the front, so bear that part in mind. But yeah, you got your center armrest right here that has two cup holders, and they aren't squeezable ones, so they're just an open face. So if you do have a water bottle, it'll probably be flapping around all over here, but either way, you do have two cup holders, and you also have a center pass that you can actually put skis or whatever long objects straight through the trunk. That's extremely handy, and I don't know why more manufacturers don't do that. That said, that's pretty much it. That's all you're going to experience. You're going to have a small little cubby here, which I don't really know what you would put in there. It's really not that deep. And you have another one right down here where you can put, I don't know, maybe a ponytail thingy to store whatever you want, but other than that, there's really nothing. You have your little tweeter speakers right on the sides of the doors, and you also have your general speakers at the bottom too. No subwoofer, nothing else in the back. Now let me further explain what I meant about the door mechanism right here. So there are the three positions. This one is practically impossible to get in. As you can tell, I'm getting my stretch in for the day. Doesn't work so much. Now the second position this is the one you're going to be using the most. However, because it sticks out quite a bit, if you have a car parked right here, you're probably going to hit the car. And then there's the third one, which is the insurance claim. So I think that Volkswagen could have changed the mechanism a little bit because they're very set in all three positions. You can't really put them in between there. So that does kind of make it inconvenient in the event that you have a car parked right beside you, or if you park in a garage that's a little bit smaller, that's kind of inconvenient. So I think that they could have changed that. Anyhow, that's enough of me talking. Let's get behind the wheel and let's see what it's really like to drive on a day-to-day basis. Okay, that's a lot warmer in here now. So with the Volkswagen that I've got, this is called the Comfort Line. Now, with the Comfort Line, you're getting heated seats. You're going to be getting the rims that are 17 inches rather than the 16-inch hubcaps that you would find with the base models. You're also going to get a sunroof, and that's really pretty much about it. There isn't really many options and features that you can get with these Jettas. They pretty much come packaged the way they are, and if you want, let's say, a blind spot monitor, or you want the best sound system, you have to actually upgrade to a full different package rather than get things a la carte. So that's kind of inconvenient. But anyway, a little traditional key here that flips up like a ninja, and we start it up and the engine comes to life. So as mentioned earlier, this has the 1.4 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine that produces 150 horsepower. 0 to 100 is going to be 8.5 seconds or so. So you're really not going to be winning any races there. But it's really not what this engine's all about. It's about fuel efficiency, and it's about the way it delivers the power. This has a very small, teeny turbo, which means there's going to be a little bit less turbo lag for the most part, because it'll allow the turbo to spool faster. In other words, giving you a lot more instant response, instant throttle response without there being a little bit of a delay. Now, this engine overall, I'm going to say, is actually very nice when it comes to the easeability of the drive. It's very easy to drive. And when you need power, you literally got it really, really fast. That's because this car is very torquey, especially within that 1500 RPM to that 4000 RPM. After that, after you're getting past 4000, the car completely runs out of steam. And then that's when you really start to see that it starts to weaken out. And then you see the 1.4 liter engine start to show itself at that point. That said though, even though the engine is quite good, in my opinion at least, there is something that lets it down. And I think it's this transmission. Not to say that the transmission is slow, it actually shifts quite fast, but it's the way it hangs on to the gear, which I think could have been tweaked a little bit differently. What ends up happening, for example, is the car will hold on. Let's say if you're driving at 1500 RPM and you step on it, the car will kind of still stay at 1500 and it won't downshift to, let's say, 2500 or 3000 if you put your foot down. But maybe that's for fuel economy reasons, potentially. I just think that it kind of makes this car a little bit slow sometimes and a little bit more less responsive when you need it. Now that said, there is something about this car that I find extremely easy to drive on a day-to-day basis. Now, let's say a sports sedan, for example, will have more aggressive seats. Maybe the brakes are going to be a little bit more touchy. Maybe the throttle response is either on or off. This car, it's just you get in and it is so simple to drive. It is so easy to drive. You've got a really nice windshield, which doesn't really have too many blind spots with the A-pillar here. The side mirrors are a really nice size, so you're not kind of looking at different angles to try and catch who's behind you. They're literally perfectly positioned, very nice there. The steering wheel position, the driving position is very nice. It's not too low, it's not too high, and it just, everything has been designed, I think, actually quite well overall from the German engineers here. Now that said, there are a couple things that I think could have been redesigned or rethought of when they made this car. Number one, that is the lack of a traction control button. So unless you know what a pedal dance is, or if you're a little bit more savvy with cars, you will have to do a pedal dance to disengage traction control. There isn't a simple button that's on or off. So in the event that you're stuck, for example, in snow, what's gonna happen is your car is just gonna keep on interjecting with a traction control system, which could actually be worse for you if you're trying to get out of a tough condition. So that is definitely something that the engineers should have put in this car a button with a traction control button or something to just disengage or completely turn off all driving assists. That is a definite -1 for me. Now, one thing that I do like about what they did with this touchscreen is the backup camera not only has these guidance lines for you, but the resolution of the camera itself is actually very nice. So it's unlike lots of cars that are very pixelated or very average looking center screen here, because they try and advertise it as a 9-inch screen or 10-inch screen that's really not that nice. The pixels on this screen and the resolution of this screen are actually quite nice, and the colors are pretty decent too. So when you're in the darkness, for example, and you're backing up, you can still clearly see everything that's behind you, which is nice, because there are lots of cars out there that'll cheap out on the resolution of the screen, but they definitely did a good job with this one. Now, how's the steering feel? How is the way it handles, and how's the ride overall? So right now we are driving through some pretty bumpy, terribly graded roads, and I'm gonna be honest with you, the ride comfort of this car, I would put it at a 7.5 out of 10. When it comes to the driving comfort and what you would experience when you go over bumps, it feels solid. There's no denying that. It feels like a solid ride. That said, it's not an overly soft ride, if you get what I'm trying to say. However, one thing I do notice though, and this seems to be a common trend with Volkswagen and Audi products, is the steering weight and feel. And it's always kind of very artificial, for lack of a better term. The on steering position is actually quite good. So there isn't very much dead zone, meaning you don't have to steer the steering wheel too much for it to start responding, but it's just, it feels dull, it feels hollow. When you're turning, the steering weight actually does get a little heavier to give you the sensation that you're getting more grip, if you know what I'm trying to get at here, but it doesn't really feel like you understand too much what's going on with the tires. It feels dull, and if you're thinking that this is gonna give you the sensation when you're taking a turn, for example, that you would feel the tires doing their thing and you'd feel the communication there, that doesn't really happen with this car that much. And again, I'm not saying that it should, because at the end of the day, it is just a Jetta. It's not a GLI, it's not a high performance sports car. But if you're looking for something that's really sporty and that'll provide you with some real good driving raw experience, this one probably isn't the car for you there. And this is where I am going to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that this car would be a very, very good used car. And let me tell you why. This car was purchased in 2017 with 54,000 kilometers, not miles, so bear that in mind, kilometers. We have now put 117,000 kilometers on the clock right now. So this car has 117, actually it's clicking over right now, 118,000 kilometers on this vehicle. And let me tell you, it has been one of the most reliable cars in the household to date. It has literally never skipped a beat. We have never had to take this car to the service station for any reason that wasn't expected or that wasn't scheduled. So there's never been a check engine light. There's never been a moment where we turned the car on and there was some weird sound or something just didn't feel right. This car literally has not skipped a beat once. So I'm going to say, if you are looking to buy a used car based on the experience of this Volkswagen Jetta, I can tell you with confidence, for this car, for my experience, that it is a very good choice to have. Now, just kind of moving on here to some other things you will notice when you're driving this car on a daily basis. It is the sound system. And the sound system in this car is average at best. You do have your tweeters on the A-pillars and also on the back of the passenger doors, but aside from that, they're really not that good. You don't really get much bass. The treble isn't the best. It's just a very average sound system. So if you're expecting to be bumping to some beats in this car, you're probably not, in all honesty. Now, the one thing that is very subjective in many ways is styling and design. This car embodies a very German style approach, meaning they aren't really gonna think outside the box and they aren't gonna get too creative in its design. This is as Jetta as it gets. It's not a pretty looking car. It's kind of boring, to be honest with you. There's really nothing too interesting about its design. It's not a head turner by any means, and the interior is very simple. We're talking, this interior has been around for a while, and you could tell that the design blueprint hasn't changed much. So to some true die-hard Volkswagen enthusiasts and lovers, that's a great thing. Me personally, I would have liked maybe a little bit more from their design team there on the interior and the exterior of the vehicle. All right, guys, so that is the 2015 Volkswagen Jetta. Let us know in the comment section below what your thoughts are on this car. Are you a fan of it? Do you like it? Do you hate it? What's your experience been? Please leave it down below to help all of those who are interested in buying this car know ahead of time. Now, also, if you did like this video, please leave a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. Your support allows me to make more videos in the future. So the more subs I can get, the more time I can take out of my schedule to do these videos for you guys. So if you did like the video and you do like the content, please subscribe to the channel. And please do check up some more of my videos that I do have on some car reviews that I have posted before. That'd be a great help to me. And hopefully, if you do like enjoying watching car videos, you can go and check those out too. So thanks, guys. We'll catch you in the next video.